Welcome back to the Herbalist Hour. Today I'm honored and excited to have on Rachel Witt. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Hi, Mason. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the Herbalist Hour. This is where community gather, merging the power of people and the flowers, the sweet and the bitter to the salty, the sour. Umami, it's time for the Herbalist Hour.
We finally made it happen due to my fault. We kept having to reschedule, so thank you so much for making the time. Where are you at in the world today?
Mm, I am currently, I'm actually at my friend's house who owns an herb farm. So
Oh,
she owns Duval Herb Farm, and we are just on the foothills of Duval, Washington, outside of Seattle.
oh my goodness. Okay. Okay,
Mhm.
Duval Herb Farm. Maybe on my next Washington road trip, we should hit up Duval Herb Farm and we could all hang out together there.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
What do they do there? What do they sell? Are they selling like dried herbs, fresh herbs, all the above?
Yeah. So Lindsay Warshaw is the herbalist slash farmer of this place, and she largely supplies to what is it, Blue Heron Botanicals,
Oh, cool. I know them.
um, and then other local. So it's very local based apothecaries in the Seattle area, and she does dried herbs, and then she's moving more to cut flowers
Hmm.
and does stunning wreaths.
Yeah.
Yeah, just she's an incredible grower, and yeah, her and I link up a lot and teach classes, being that we're close and complementary, and yeah, we're also very close to Bastyr, so we get their botanical studies programs coming out to our properties.
Amazing. Okay, yeah. So and your website is wildness within living.com, and I was actually looking at the classes earlier, and I did see that you hosted some there, and yeah, it looks like there is a lot of overlap. And speaking of Blue Heron Botanicals, I want to say they used to be based in Eugene, Oregon. If I'm thinking of the correct brand, maybe they moved or not. But I remember when I first started getting into herbalism, I would see their tinctures at Sundance Natural Foods and whatnot. So that's cool to hear that name. I haven't heard that name in a while, but well, very cool. Thanks for kind of setting the tone of where you're at, etc. Let's kind of kick things off with getting to know Rachel a little bit more. What was a young Rachel like, and kind of weave in the story of how you got into herbalism?
Yeah, great question. I feel like I tell this story often
Hmm.
at the start of many programs. I'm like, how do I say it in a way that's not the same? But here we go, because I haven't told you this story. Um, and mainly it starts with, I think, young Rachel, actually, it was like multi generations, multi lifetimes ago. It's been a work in progress to get to where I am currently with herbalism.
Hmm.
But I would say it really started in the garden and growing up with my family growing just a very simple garden. My dad was all about the tomatoes and basil, and we had a can every single year, and that made a really big impact on me. So when I went to college, I got into agroecology and then found my way into working more so with plants, botany, um, and yeah, just many different. What do I want to say? Many different journeys, I guess, with plants in the farming atmosphere, in the ecology atmosphere, and then also natural foods. Um, I really was into research, so I traveled around the tropics,
Wow.
and um, I'd be out in these crazy field stations. I say crazy field stations because they were out like in the middle of nowhere, and the only people around us were the elders, right? Like all the young people would go to the cities, and so I'd be studying these plants and quadrats, and I'd see certain elders growing them in pots out front of their house, or just interacting with them in ways that no one else was. So I took it upon myself to just work or interview or, interact with the elders and learn from them of what they were doing with these plants I was studying. And turns out most of them were medicinal, right? Most of them have been used for years amongst the culture, and a lot of the younger kids weren't interested in what their grandparents had to teach. So I became obsessed. I went on my own little like ethnobotanical studies, and everywhere I went then I was like, okay, I have to like know what's edible in my quadrat, and maybe I can like forage while I'm out in the middle of nowhere doing research. And yeah, that was like my avenue for a good while. It was more so like ethnobotany. And then I broke my back. Woohoo! Like there was perfect opportunity. And I had all these doctors look at me and say, you got to be crazy if you're going to do research and go out into the field again. I had one person say I should get a mule if I wanted to ever go out backpacking or out far off to do whatever research I was doing. And then I found, the healers, the people that gave me hope and taught me how to use the herbs. We say using the herbs from not in that fresh form that I always saw out in the field, but in the like cut and sifted, apothecary form. So, yeah, I definitely was dealt the cards of you gotta give them a chance if you're gonna pursue this. And clearly it changed my life and I never looked back. So that's how I got started.
I love it. Amazing story. Yeah, you've come up from all different angles, and I love hearing that. And just a couple questions. You use the word quadrat. I don't know if you define that, but curious what that word is. And also, if you'd be willing, I'm curious how you broke your back and how you healed it.
Yeah, great questions.
Yeah.
Quadrat. So quadrat would be, gosh, I don't even know like the formal definition of it, but let's just I just want to act it out. It to me, it's like it's just a measuring device. So I'm doing like a square or a corner, right? Like a plot. And we use that to basically lay down in a certain area. There's like, graphs upon graphs of how we get to a certain point out in the forest to measure a certain species diversity within the quadrat. So it's basically technically like a square of measurement.
Gotcha.
And then we use that at different plots to see how species measurement has changed. I was looking at disturbance, like how natural disturbance affects species diversity, which is a whole nother topic area.
Totally, yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's really fascinating. Part of me, I feel so much for when certain natural disasters happen, and there's this like science part of me that's like, what's going to happen to the regrowth of, the land? And it's just, it's exciting in that term. What was your other question?
Oh, if you'd be willing to share even briefly, like how you broke your back and then how you healed it, because clearly you're healthy and fine now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're dealing with any like nagging, aches and pains, but.
Right. I was just about to say, and I'm still needing to go get body work, or else I feel it. And yeah, that's a huge part of the healing process too.
Yeah.
I broke my back while bouldering in Joshua Tree. So I'm very tall, and I should have just gone with like trad climbing. My body doesn't get all small and contorted to do these boulders. And anyways, I had a project called The Womb, Go figure. It was the mother womb that really changed my life. And yeah, I was with my two best friends, and I fell off the crash pad, like did a total twist, and then ended up laying there just staring at this. It was this beautiful boulder with like this inverted center. And I was there for about 3 hours before paramedics
Oh
came
my gosh.
to carry me out.
Wow.
So there was a lot of that medicine that continued as I went to on my healing journey, more or less. And
Wow.
and yeah, just other, how life is, where other circumstances just line up for you. And it was very clear I needed to, I had to go home to my parents' place in the Central Valley in California. And I think that was the hardest thing on me, more so than breaking my back. And then I was invited to stay with some old friends in Portland, where I could walk to all these natural healers, or even like physical therapists are different up there. So Portland caught me. Where was I? What is it? The Herb Room? It's no longer the Herb Room. JJ
Purcell.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. So I was a diehard volunteer at the Herb Room, and
Cool.
yeah, just loved it. Loved having access to it. And I know she's changed her model a lot, but that was also a part of the healing experience.
Well, thanks for sharing. I didn't know you had Oregon ties too. That's where, as you probably know, I'm originally from. But very good. Well, I always like to ask this. I like to get like herbal lineage down. So, who were some of your teachers, mentors along the way in the herbal sphere?
Mm-hmm. Well, now that I just say JJ, I think indirectly through being at her shop was definitely in that. I moved from Portland up to Monroe. So Monroe, Washington is about 8 minutes away from Duval. And Monroe holds the lovely Ravencroft of Eagle Song E. Gardner.
Yep.
And she is, yes, and I know you've worked with her, or not worked with her, you've interviewed her, and you've gotten
I've hung out with
Song.
Eagle Song a fair amount over the years. Yeah, I love Eagle Song.
Yeah, so Eagle Song caught me when I first came up to Washington. And I would say from her, Susan Weed is an indirect mentor. The Wise Woman tradition is definitely a big foundation for me. I
got my oat straw infusion right here. So, yeah.
Wow,
Wise Woman tradition.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep. Avena sativa.
Love it. I have my chamomile right here. That's
respect.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
You're good. What was it? Eagle Song, Susan Weed. I also worked with two local plant people. One is Lindsay Hutman. She's very much into ethnobotany, and her and I are currently co-teachers at the Wilderness Awareness School up in the Pacific Northwest.
That's cool.
And then also Julia Bush Swanson. She's no longer with us, and she was a huge influence on me. She's a local herbal production maker, and really she was a spiritual teacher for me, but taught me a lot about handmade products and in that world. Holly Houghton, who is associated with East West School of Planetary Herbology, and also she used to be the vice president of the American Herbalist Guild, and I know has played a huge part in the American Herbalist Guild. And Michael and Leslie Tira, of course, being at their school, but I directly studied with Michael Tierra in these later years before he sold the school to Thomas.
That's right.
So,
I remember you telling me about, is it Thomas Guerin?
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to have that guy on the show at some point. Are you kind of a mixture of TCM, Ayurveda, Western herbalism, or kind of how do you see your herbal practice?
Yeah, great question. um, I am very much, I would say there is this root of the wise woman tradition.
Mm,
And I can still imagine being on Ravencroft and seeing Eagle Song turn to me and say, if, yeah, you need to go and find other teachers.
mm,
Like you need to learn from many people. And
that's
that
cool.
has been wisdom for me as I began teaching of like, oh, I need to tell everyone like they need their many different teachers. Um, so yeah, I met Michael and Leslie at the Northwest Herb Symposium.
Hmm.
Did
Yep.
you ever go to that with
Yeah, I went twice actually over on Camp Casey and what are those islands called up there?
Whidbey, San
Whidbey Island.
Martin?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, maybe we were at the same
It's
place.
very possible. Yeah.
Like,
I know Susan was at one of the ones that I went to, so or maybe both of them. I don't remember.
yeah.
But yeah.
So I met the Tiers there, and I mean, honestly, I fell in love with Leslie and went to the school, and then was scared shitless of Michael for many years, and over time, I like, started to understand more of Michael,
Hmm.
and it was through working with him that I really started bringing in TCM. And he definitely said, like, if I'm going to, see you through the clinical herbal program, like, you got to know TCM and you need to know Zong Fu diagnosis.
Mm.
And I think there's always been a part of me that's been like, oh no, like I'm a Western herbalist and I have so much background in plant ecology. So even knowing native plants is so important to me. A lot of the people I work with in my community are very much interested in working with native plants or plants that grow here. Um, Even though there's an array of Chinese herbs that grow here, I think there's still a certain mentality around in Chinese herbs. And through going deeper down my mentorship with Michael, I really found, yeah, just the wisdom in TCM and the power with TCM formulas. So at the moment, my practice is really based in traditional Chinese medicine, more so I say the Zong Fu diagnostics and 5 phases. And I will blend certain Western or even Ayurvedic herbs and native herbs in with Western herbs for clients.
Okay. I've never heard that term Zong Fu. Is that like XONG?
Z
Oh,
Z
Z.
A ZANG and then FU and well,
F you too.
uh,
Yeah, you want to like kind of give us like a brief description of what Zong Fu diagnosis is?
yeah, that's looking at it's looking at the yin yang organ system. So, like I mentioned, the 5 phases.
Hmm.
Um, I believe did you do an interview with someone recently that taught about TCM herbalism? Maybe she mentioned,
Might have been Dana Hutchinson. She did
yeah.
like a couple solo videos for us, but yeah, she does TCM stuff. So yeah, I was probably mentioning there.
Okay.
Hmm.
So 5 phases, it's also another way that I look at like the seasonal rounds.
Yeah.
But with every phase, every season, every element is a yin and a yang organ. And so the Zong Fu diagnostics is looking at a person through these patterns associated with yin and yang organs. And then furthermore, different pernicious influences, or like qi and blood and yin and yang. And so pattern differentiation.
Just a quick break from the show to let you know about our herbalism freebies. So if you'd like to get a bunch of ebooks, herbal community discounts, videos, audio lessons, all the above and more, you could go to herbrally.com, and at the top of the navigation menu, you're going to see a button that says freebies. So when you fill out that form, you're going to be signing up for our email newsletter, and in exchange, you're going to get a ton of herbalism freebies. And you're going to love the email newsletter because it updates you on herbalism events, new YouTube videos, etc. So I know you're going to love it. So thank you so much. And now back to the show. All right. So Rachel, it was fun to hear your story, like your different mentors, etc. And look at you now. You're a full-blown herbalist, making a living at it. For those of listeners out there that are just kind of getting going on their journey, they have this like elusive idea of what like being an herbalist is. What would you say? What's a sure path to becoming an herbalist? How do you become an herbalist? And feel free to go any direction with that. Expound as deeply as you want, or as very, short worded as you like. But yeah, just kind of curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm still learning, right? That's a huge part of the path too, is being a constant learner. This is a question I've been getting a lot from some of my students, and it's something that I've brought to other friends or other herbalists that I believe have made it, right? Whatever made it means. And something that really stuck was, to be an herbalist is really to be an entrepreneur. And that's one thing I wish was brought into a lot of the herbal curriculum and programs. Like, how do you sell yourself? How do you sell the herb? And I know that's like bringing in capitalism and which is a whole other can of worms that I have some, hardships with. But to quote unquote make it or be an herbalist as a career, I think you need the entrepreneur skills.
Totally.
And in that, what I would really say around that is not just the entrepreneur skills, but the ability to put yourself out there and offer the medicine to your people, like your close-in people, or maybe it's even strangers. Something that, I really want to share that came to me. A student just wrote me a letter. Actually, my partner Jeff, who I think you met when we
just
first met.
Allie's wedding.
And he's definitely one with the trees, right? He's total like crazy nursery guy, loves to propagate. And
he's a righteous dude.
He really is. I hope that doesn't make him sound crazy, but he's wonderful. We just had a student write us a letter that said the quote from Lord of the Rings of Tolkien talking about something along the line of like speaking for the trees. Who speaks for the trees? And the student said, when I'm with you guys, when I'm at your homestead and around your family, I really feel like you guys are speaking for the unspoken. And gosh, when I read that, I just it was really big heart medicine of, okay, thank you. We're on the right track. And when I think of, what it takes to be an herbalist, I think it's that deep listening, and the reminder that it's not about you, right? It's about the plants, and it's about, bringing their voice forward. So, yeah.
Well, you said it's about the plants, and I hear that sentiment a lot with herbalists, and I definitely agree. But then I just really love hearing that when someone was able to say that to you, a student was able to say that to you, you were actually able to feel it deeply and accept it. And I'm just kind of curious, when you felt that previously, when you say would get like maybe compliments like that, do you ever have like this nature of where you just kind of like, oh, brush it aside? Or have you always been able to kind of just accept these compliments and kind of ingrain them within yourself and your practice?
Now we're getting to the depth of conversation I like to talk about.
Hopefully it's not too deep.
No, I love it. I love it because that's so much of. I'm very heady person. I'm a Scorpio moon, so I'm a deep, dark well that just wants to go deep. And yeah, there is a lot of when I get feedback like that, or reflections, or compliments, or gratitude. There's a part of me that's like, it's not me. It's something bigger. I'm just, a spoke in the wheel of it. And yeah, I guess it just makes me cry.
Yeah.
And because it doesn't feel that right. It's not the surface. There's something deeper that's moving that doesn't necessarily feel so.
Would you say being an herbalist is your calling?
Yeah, I still to this day have a hard time with the word herbalist, and like
that's wild.
Owning that word.
I feel you.
Yeah, there's another teacher, another mentor, another being, wise woman up in the Pacific Northwest, Denise Joy.
Oh yeah, I know that name for sure.
The purple hair of Denise might come to you with that. She has like the Russian herbal ancestry, and she spoke to me about that, of like, so many people call themselves herbalists, or there's so many things of like, if you know 3 herbs, then you're an herbalist. And what does it take to be an herbalist? And I think just being at conferences with some of our elders in this field, there's still that like, oh, but I'm not that. And maybe that's something they need to get over. Sure. And I don't know if it's also herbalism. Like, that's another layer to it. There's something just like, okay, if I say plants or plant medicine, or, something like an advocate for the plants, that feels more like my path. But maybe I just need to get over the word herbalist.
You're definitely an herbalist. I mean, you're out there teaching classes and doing all sorts of good work in the world. And again, I just want to reiterate to the listener, that's Wildness Within living.com.
Yes.
Yep, Wildness Within living.com with Rachel Wit. Man, I feel like we could talk about this for a long time, and I know there's other topics we want to go into, and I just want to keep going down that route. But for your sake, for the listener's sake, maybe we'll transition a little bit. Actually, it's probably still pertaining. And when we were talking pre-show about potential topics that we might want to delve into, you were talking about not getting sucked into the rat race, quote unquote, and fear-based culture. As in, how do you stay true to your herbal practices? So maybe that is somewhat of a dovetail. Curious what your thoughts are on not getting sucked into the rat race.
Yeah. Maybe this will be my $1 million answer. Gosh. Um, yeah, I think, well, first I just want to say like that came up for me in a conversation recently where someone, actually it was another herb teacher, was saying, I can't keep up with all of this change and just, things coming at me here and there. And, yeah, how do I do it? And, and I was just kind of watching her when she was going about the like, oh, the state of the world and, changing times. And I just wondered, like, oh, do I relate to that, or how do I keep up with this crazy world and the fast pace and social media and all the things? And at that moment, I just thought into my home and the forest that holds me, and I thought into the land. And I know I'm in a unique situation. I'm in a very unique situation. Again,
Yeah.
in Duval. But that's something I try to put out there to all people, of like, whether you have 20 acres, whether you have a forest, maybe a park, a front porch, some access to soil, right? To the natural elements, which I think we all still do as humans. That's really what came to me. It's like, oh, well, I think it's such an important thing to come back to the land that I just can't allow myself to get caught up in the rat race. It might be a to a default for me, because I can really retreat on my mountaintop and not know about what's going on in the world. However, I just remember, okay, if I'm going to hold this name or recognition as an herbalist, or a person that is going to speak for the unspoken, like, I gotta stay connected to the source, which I know many people bring into different conversations, but it's in that office and talking to this person, I just realized, oh, I feel their amp, because I'm not in my place, like I'm not with my land. But if I can just think about what it feels like to sit in the garden or sit next to my favorite cedar tree and have that at my back, then it's like, oh, I'm doing it right. I'm being authentic. I'm being true to whatever it is I'm putting out there, because at the end of the day, I'm going to come back to my connection to place. And
I was going to ask you about that. So I know you're like a researcher, you're a total nerd, you're a botanist, when you're out there in the woods, and you're beautiful. Like, again, I'll leave a link to your Instagram, but you live in a beautiful part of the world. Oh my goodness. I mean, Washington State's just incredibly beautiful. But you have this background as a botanist and ethnobotanist and all the above. And I'm just kind of curious. You did talk about like sitting next to your favorite cedar tree, but when you're going out there for nature therapy, for, like getting away from the world and, just escaping it all. And do you sometimes have a hard time just immersing yourself in the nature, as in like in a meditative state? Because are you going out there like, ooh, look at that plant, ooh, look at that plant, ooh, I gotta botanize, I gotta do this, I gotta do that? Or do you have any tips on when you're going out into nature, even if it is just your local city park, maybe an exercise you could do to help practice staying present and really fully immersing yourself into nature, so you could get those therapeutic benefits, if that makes sense? That was a lot.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, one, I would say for me, it's not just going around I live on like about 30 acres out here.
Holy moly.
So I get to tend a large garden and forest. And so for me, it's not just going out and like seeing the plants. It's more so like trail work and like, oh,
Mm.
I need to like take care of that.
Yeah.
So as peaceful as I want that all to be, it's really hard to relax
Yeah.
sometimes, a lot of the times. But
That makes sense.
yeah, when I do, it is pure bliss. Um, and that's also that's my rat race, right? It's like, oh, I have to like tend to this
Mm.
land and there's always so much to do. So that goes into your question of like, how do you find peace, or how do you slow down and quiet the mind? And a big part of that is something called sit spot.
I've heard that term.
I believe Rosalie de la Florette and Emily Hunt, they had in, I think it's the Wild Remedies book.
Oh, nice.
They talked about sit spot. It's also something through the Wilderness Awareness School, which is associated with John Young and bird language and coyote mentoring, 8 Shields model. One of the core routines is to do a sit spot. And that is to find a place that you feel called. So honing into your body radar, finding a place that you feel called or safe, or somewhere where you can just let go, whether it's putting your back against something solid, such as a tree, which can take a lot of your stuff, or the ground, or just standing. And if I'm in that space, one of the ways that I can quiet my mind is softening my gaze, and then actually turning on the mindset of like, who's around me, what plants are here, how are they different, actually allows me to just kind of calm back down, and be more present in my sit spot, so then I could be more present in my body, and then furthermore get the medicine that I need from the place. So did that answer that?
100%. No, that was fantastic. And when I went through Columbine School of Botanical Studies with Howie Brownstein and Stephen Yeager, it's probably from a similar tradition, I would imagine, but he called it a power spot, or they called it a power spot. And no, I'm visualizing exactly where I was when we were having that lesson. And no, I think it's incredibly important. And so Amanda, she's developing this garden for us on our 0.1 acre yard here in Wisconsin. And it's really neat, though, because there's these little pockets and stuff like that. And she really is fond of lavender. And so we're really excited for this. She planted a few lavender plants. We're excited for them to grow. And I could already tell that's going to be like one of her sit spots in the little garden that she's got going. So, yeah, it doesn't have to be like immaculate old growth forest in the Western Cascades in Washington. It could just be like even just a tiny spot in your yard, or, at the local park or whatever. So I thought that was really brilliant. So, yeah, just thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, transitioning a little bit more, you taught a cool class for the HerbRally Schoolhouse called the Harvest Calendar. And I want to get into that a little bit more, but this was just kind of a little snippet from it. And I was re-watching probably about half of it this morning in preparation for this interview, just to get another feel for, Rachel Witt's, style and whatnot. So, but you said this term, photographer's awareness. And I remember when I was watching it the first time, when you actually did that webinar for us, I never heard the photographer's awareness before. So, if you recall what you were referring to, can you define what the photographer's awareness is?
This is a good segue. You just mentioned Amanda in the garden, her lavender patch, and
totally.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of her photography, and I'm not a photographer to that to that level, right, as a career. But I know we all with our smart gadgets are taking photos constantly.
Hmm.
And when I teach classes, you know, people have their phones out, and as much as I'm like, put them away, we don't need our phones. I understand that people need their phones to take photos, right? Our phones are our cameras. And the photographer's awareness is, yeah, what do we look, how do we see the season? How do we see the plants through that lens?
Hmm.
And yeah, as much as I want people to embody plants and seasons with their senses, I mean, the lens of a camera of photography is brilliant, right? And it brings us back to these moments, and it can bring us back to a whole season, a whole harvest, that you might not remember when you're drinking a tea or just going through your jars of things. But that image, the photo of what's going on can just, yeah, really capture the season, can capture the harvest. And I would say, if when I'm planning, I'm forgetting if I said this um, during the webinar, but if I'm to be honest about like how I plan my classes and look into, I teach the seasonal foraging class, I'm constantly going back, okay, like year 2014, year 2020, what was I harvesting then? And I will probably have a photo of something that I took a photo of. And I think it's one of the easiest ways to track the harvest calendar with our 21st century devices.
You totally did mention that actually, and just curious. So you're taking these pictures, and they're primarily staying on your phone. Are you uploading a lot of these to your Instagram page as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nathan. I think, gosh, I just have so much.
Yeah.
That's where my I don't know. There's certain parts where I'm like, that's not good enough, or like,
Yeah.
not that's not how I want it to
Yeah.
be on the screen.
Hmm.
So honestly, I keep a lot for my personal use, but if
Totally.
there's something that just like, this is what I want to share, or my website, I designed my website, so I like to, or I do like my little brochures. So I'll use it for like outreach stuff. Um, but yeah, I would say that's where uh I'm not there in my herbal journey of really wanting to go to the digital platform. I mean, there's parts of me, of course, that want to do that. But again, I'm go back to the land. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't be on my phone. But yeah, and like I want it to look a certain way. So,
It's a balance for sure. I
oh,
I just want to give you props, by the way. I thought that maybe like a professional made your website for you. I'm looking at it right now. It's gorgeous. It's very user friendly. You're able to get around, and it's very like intuitive, I should say. But it's beautiful too. So kudos to you. Okay, so yeah, we were talking about the photographer's awareness was a term you threw around in the harvest calendar from that webinar you did for us. So we're recording this. Today is December 10th. We're in the midst of winter. And I was like, oh, I should ask Rachel, maybe some tips for living in season with the winter time. But, actually, we're probably going to be releasing this closer to the early spring segment, which you were, if I'm recalling correctly, you were like, that's not a in TCM, that early spring is not actually in traditional Chinese medicine, but maybe you said it was like maybe in Ayurveda. I can't remember, but so since we'll fast forward in time a little bit, since it'll be released probably early spring. From an herbalist perspective, I don't know if you'd identify as like say a nutritionist, but do you have any tips or lifestyle tactics that we could kind of throw into just our life now that we're listening to this in its early spring.
yeah, yeah. Oh man, part of me wants to go to spring right now.
Oh, I feel you.
I'm like, ooh, that sounds so good. To be like awakening again, but I need my winter slumber. Um, so early spring, that's always a hard time. I mean, it's a hard time for a lot of people. Uh, in Ayurveda, right? For some reason, I associate it with wind, and that is something of TCM, of the 5 phases. There's a lot of wind in the springtime, and there's physically wind, and so I always bring in like the Ayurvedic aspect of air, right? And so there's just a lot of movement happening in early spring. And what I find, at least being in the Pacific Northwest, is that there's just this friction of winter still wanting to be there, and then aspects of like, you know, later spring or the sunshine and warmer weathers wanting to also be there, right? It's the time where I'm at my friend's house who's a farmer. It's like we always are like February, March, like, oh, how many seeds have you started? Like, is it indoor, out? Like, you know, there's so much like the decision making is really hard at that time, because you just don't know where the wind's gonna blow, and
Literally.
And like how, like whether you need something warm or whether you need something cooling, and there's all this like spring diet and spring cleansing. And if you're in like the northern hemisphere, I always say that that's like it's really cold still, and so the thought of going raw or doing these like gallbladder liver cleanses for your spring detox is a little bit too soon. And like eating these new like young sprouts, like, yes, that's great, but you probably want to saute them a little bit to make it a little bit more digestible in your system. If you're down in the southern states, then you're probably experiencing some nice like 70, 80 degree weather, depending on where you're at, where it's like, great, eat your fresh greens, eat all the like new young sprouts in their raw form. But yeah, I say depends on your constitution and like how spring manifests in your environment, of how to go about eating with the seasons, and even taking herbs with the seasons. Like you might want to add more of the cinnamons, more of the carminatives to your bitters in order to digest things a little bit more if you're in a cold spot, or like still be adding it to soups. But I definitely say if you're a cold person or in a cold climate in the spring, take that fresh young growth and saute it at the very least. And if you're in a warm spot, then go at it. Have your fresh bitters and pestos and all that fun stuff. Isn't that weird to think of right now?
Oh, I know. My mouth just started watering. Are you an omnivore, Rachel?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Same. I was just curious, because I've heard 2 different people say, I won't name names, of bone broth year-round versus bone broth seasonally. Just me, personally, like I make bone broth year-round. I do it all the time. I think it's really like, we call it frugal nutrition. It's delicious. It makes everything taste better. Very nourishing. But just for whatever reason, when you were talking, I was like, I wonder how you look at it from like, say, your TCM or seasonal perspective. Are you an advocate for drinking bone broth year round, or is it more of like a seasonal thing for you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would, for me, it really comes down to your constitution, right? It's like not
well played.
It's not even about I don't know. It just it's not even about where you're at or the seasons. It's really like, are you deficient? Are you cold? Are you, what's going on with you? And like how I look at bone broth is very nourishing. So if you're a person that has a lot of deficiencies, then we need to build that, right? So bone broth would be great. Not saying like if you have excess or stagnation that you shouldn't take bone broth, but that's something I would weigh out more seasonally. And for me personally, in the Pacific Northwest, there might be like 2 or 3 months where it's actually hot, and those might be the months that I don't use bone broth. But that doesn't mean that they don't, that's like a good thing or a bad thing. And I love it as like just to have around the house as like the base of any sort of rice or whatever. Like you said, it's just like that, like, what did you say? The nutrients, the free nutrients, the
frugal nutrition. Yeah.
Frugal. I was like low something.
I basically consider it free because a lot of people might just be tossing whatever scraps you're throwing in there anyway. So it's just water and a like heat source and then the bones and whatnot. So, but yeah.
Actually, I'm
gonna. It's like free nutrition.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this out here.
Yeah, please.
And this is something I learned from a chef who wrote a book called Eating Seasoned with Gratitude. Seasoned with Gratitude. And she's
like
a chef up here. And she cooked for a Wise Women Herb Conference that I helped with Eva Fong years ago. And she would take all the vegetable scraps and she would either constantly have a broth going as she was cooking, or she told me she would freeze it. And then once the freezer bag's full, right, go ahead and make the stock. So it was just constantly in motion. And that's something that Jeff and I do all the time. It's like,
that's cool.
Right? Like, let's just use all the scraps, just like you were saying. So
amazing.
Yeah.
His name's Jeff, right?
Yeah.
Is he a good cook?
Oh, yeah. I mean, food's part of our love language. Food and plants, you know.
I love it. Sweet. Well, transitioning again, I'm a big advocate for self-care. I've been really nerding out on this topic lately and just I incorporate it quite a bit into my life. I'm wanting to make this like YouTube video going in depth on my like self-care routine. I think that'd be a lot of fun and just kind of a unique experience for the HerbRally audience. But what does your self-care look like these days? I know you're a quasi new mom, so maybe that plays a role in your ability and your time to a lot to it. But any favorite self-care routines that you have or things you like to do to just really nourish yourself?
Wow. Yeah, this is a good question. And I want to know about yours. Like, what are some of your go-tos?
Totally.
I've listened to your YouTube video.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we got one watch viewer.
Yeah. And a part of me will be jealous because being a new mom, it's really hard to nourish yourself. Yeah. You know, I think in the first 40 days, it's like, nourish yourself. And I think people give space for you to nourish yourself because to feed the mother is to feed the child or feed the baby. But once you get into 1 year, all of a sudden it's like all that stuff goes out the door and like you're just expected to do everything is what it feels like right now. Totally. Or it's just hard. It's just really hard. So going back to that sit spot, going back to that time outside, I'm fortunate to have a child that is totally willing to go outside with me. And that is ultimate self-care is just being out, checking in with the ducks, checking in with whatever plants are coming up, going for a walk.
That's so cute.
You'd see my daughter in her little onesie rain suit thing, just loving life. So that's one. And I'm actually a bath person,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
not everyone is a bath person. Actually, I'm learning that some people get really grossed out by baths.
You're just sitting in your own filth.
And
I'm a bath advocate. I'm all
okay,
for them. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, 100%.
There's nothing like an Epsom salt bath to
Mm.
me with herbs, right? You just um one thing too, maybe this is gross. Maybe this will gross people out, but hey, why not?
We're here for it.
Thank you. I like to take my decanted, when I decant my oils, I'll take my whatever sack of muslin cloth with my herbs that once they're all strained out, and I'll even take like paper towels that I'm like washing all of my Pyrex with, or my funnels and all that, and I just make a giant bath soak with it.
Wow, that's a great idea.
I love it.
That again, it kind of reminds me of the broth concept. It's basically like a free bath bomb or bath oil or herbs in your bath. That's so cool. I love that idea. That's not
Yeah.
disgusting at all.
Well, okay. There's times where like the Pyrex doesn't get wiped with paper
Sure.
towel and just goes in the bath.
Fair.
Maybe like doing your dishes.
Yeah, you're doing your dishes at the same time.
But
hilarious.
yeah, that is something that is a guilty pleasure of mine. And it is a wonderful way to take care of myself.
So, since you brought it up, do you sell like herbal products on your website?
Yeah, talking about being a new mama, that was like one thing where I was like, I can't, like, I need to step back from making stuff.
Totally.
But I do, and in the coming year, I'm gonna like revamp some of that. I mainly sell custom blends. So,
Okay.
yeah, I could just put out there too, if folks are interested in custom blends. I have almost 200 plus herbs in my apothecary.
Wow.
I largely work with tinctures.
Okay.
And a lot of my herbal practitioner friends will send their clients to me, and I'll do different blends.
That's awesome. Are you seeing clients as well, or is that part of how you make a living as an herbalist? Or
Yes. Yeah, that's okay. Another layer to the entrepreneur and being an herbalist is they say not to put all your eggs in one basket, but then also the like, you can't be the farmer, you can't be the teacher, you can't be the, practitioner. You
right.
can't be all of
Diversify. Yeah.
But yeah, I find it's really nice to offer different things based on the seasons. And I don't feel like I would be a credible teacher if I didn't have experience working with clients.
Totally.
So it's really important to me to like keep that pulse going.
Sure.
And having said that, that was also something I closed up when I went on maternity leave, but now I'm taking on more. So yes.
Is your community in Monroe, or is it Duval?
Duval.
Is your community in Duval, do they kind of know Rachel as like this herbal person? Are they coming to you? Are they asking you like questions and stuff?
Yeah, it's like you asked that, and I smile because it's really sweet. Like I mean, me saying I'm like gonna cry about that, but
people have
like,
cried on the show before, so it's
it feels like such a privilege. Like if anything, that's like the biggest accomplishment is just to like have someone call me and say, I have this like crazy infection, I can't get into the dentist. Can I come by? And like, yeah, come on over. And they're in their pajamas and like their dog's barking in the car. And it's like, let's like put a formula together for you right now.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's like that, and being with my students is one of the most heartwarming things. But yeah, like to be that resource for folks in the community.
Well, just to circle back to like, I want to say it was maybe one of my first questions for you in this interview was, when do you know, well, how do you become an herbalist? And you were even saying like maybe you struggle with still saying that. And, we just recently released a video with herbalist Asia Dorsey, and her conclusion is you're an herbalist when your community comes to you to be an herbalist. And actually, I was told this by my mentor, Howie Brownstein, for years now. He says you're an herbalist when your community comes to you to be an herbalist. So, boom, Rachel, no more questioning. All right, you're straight up an herbalist, and you're doing awesome things out there in Duval, Washington. I can't wait to visit. Yeah, we got to hang out at our lovely friends Giuseppe and Ali's wedding. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. That was a incredible weekend camp out, and it was so cool to go to a wedding and get to meet another herbalist, and there were so many righteous people there. It was like such an incredible mix of people, but I can't wait to kick it again. I still got a couple more questions for you. It almost sounded like it was the end of the interview, but do you have time for a couple more questions?
Yeah, I think I do.
Sweet. Any current plant allies that you're vibing with right now?
Ooh, the plant ally question.
Yeah. And it's not the favorite herb question. I would never ask that. I would never ask such a thing on a show. But like, what for me, I feel like one year is like cow parsnip. I'm like, damn, I just love cow parsnip. I don't know why. There's something about that plant I just love, and I would grow it in my backyard. And it just feels like kind of every year there's maybe a new plant you're really vibing with. So just kind of curious what that plant is for you now.
Oh my goodness. What is that plant for me? Like, who have I been going towards? Yeah. Okay, this is shocking for me. Now, like, just putting my mind up there of like, who have I been going to? I've been going to the flower essence of hens and chicks. Do you know hens and chicks? And like, here I am, like putting this out there, and I don't know the botanical name. It's the succulent.
Oh, yeah, it rings a bell.
Okay, you got it. Will you look it up for me? Just
I want to know the botanical name too.
Yes.
Or at least what plant family it's. Oh yeah, I totally know that. Oh wow, there's a flower essence to that. That's interesting.
Is it a Dudleya or?
It's kind of like like you said, a succulent. Almost looks like it's not showing me. I wish there was like a.
Oh, it's not giving me that.
It's not giving me it on like a Wikipedia. It's a chick's plant.
Sorry, making you do research.
No, that's all right. It says a common house leek. Oh, here we go. Finally. Sorry about that. Dear listener, Sempervivum tectorum, the common house leek. It's in the order Saxifragiales. I remember calling mine Saxifragiaceae, but it's not. It's in the it's in the Crassulaceae plant family.
Yes, it being a succulent.
Yeah.
Hens and chicks, and I want to just share one thing about that. My student came with this essence, and this year I've been getting really into flower essences. That hasn't always been a big part of my practice, and she gave me it, and said, "I'm not going to tell you what the essence is. Just take it and tell me how you feel." And the minute I took it, I was like, "Oh, I feel like I can hold space. Like I feel like the mother hen. I feel like I'm just able to nourish and be there for whoever." And I talked about it with another student who's actually from Serbia, and she said, "Oh yeah, we use hens and chicks all the time. Like as a young girl, we would take the leaf of it and eat it when we were feeling sick." or like just or I think sick in the stomach, like a stomach ache. And she said we would always grow it on top of our house. They had like living roofs. She's like, we'd always grow it on top of
That's cool.
our house because it was like a protection of the roost, right? It's the hens and chicks is the mothering, the nourishment of the roost.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anyway, so now I look at that plant and I'm like, that's a pretty badass medicinal plant.
That's your jam. Well, I'm glad I asked because yeah, that's a very unique answer. That's totally different than anything I've gotten on the show before. So, thank you for sharing. Well, we definitely want to talk about some of the offerings from Wildness Within. And Rachel, it took me forever to get you on the show. That was my fault. Maybe we have to have you back on. Unless you do have time, we could do it now. We were going to talk about the topic of community alliance. Should we save that for another show, or?
Oh yeah, that might be. What would be cool is to have like a whole panel of
that.
Of herbalists.
Okay, let's revisit that. We'll be in email conversation about that because I love the panelist idea, and I definitely want to do more panelist type shows or webinars or so on and so forth. So let's chat more about that. So that's a little teaser for the HerbRally audience. Community Alliance, Herbal Community Alliance. Well, why don't we wrap up the show? Tell us more about Wildness Within. We've kind of touched on it here and there, what you offer, but maybe talk about some of the things you have coming up, especially knowing that this will be released in early spring. But yeah, what you got going on at Wildness Within?
Yeah, thanks, Mason.
Yeah.
Well, as I said earlier in the show, I don't always love the virtual aspect of teaching, and so a big part of what Wildness Within is offering in-person experiences. So I am currently offering a foundation apprenticeship, which is where I say where the magic happens. Just every good, yummy aspect of herbalism is just like served to you every Friday for 4 different seasons.
Wow.
And that's for like the greater Seattle area. So, if you're listening from that region, we should definitely be in touch.
Amazing.
And the other one I'm doing in person is a Materia Medica, which is more so for that intermediate person who wants to know more about herbal actions, but also be able to like go out and work with specific plants and then make some really potent medicine around that category. And I'm putting a spin to it where I add TCM categories as well as Western herbal actions. So
Nice.
I'm really proud of this course. And I know people are doing a lot of online stuff about it, but I'm like, let's just go out and be with the plants that we're talking about.
Nothing beats in-person learning, especially in herbalism, because you actually get to hang out with the plants. So no, I'm a huge advocate for in-person learning. Online learning is a great addendum to like what you're doing in person. But if you could do it, definitely take an in-person apprenticeship, especially with Rachel Wit, especially if you're in the Seattle area.
I am also doing an online thing. I'm doing a practitioner pathway thing that's online. I often get people that are local that do it too, but that's one of my new ones, and I need to market it in a certain way. Maybe I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah, we talk. Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
but other than that, I do seasonal foraging. So springtime, I'll be crazy out in the woods with folks. And yeah, I do different pop-up workshops, consultations, which you can be near or far. And like I said, custom remedies. So there's quite a bit of different things.
Wildnesswithinliving.com. All links that we talked about will be in the podcast show notes, YouTube description, etc. I called you a nerd earlier, and I hope you know that I meant that lovingly. It's a term of endearment for me. I think you're a super cool person, Rachel. This was a lot of fun. I hope we get to hang out again somewhat in the near future. Do you have any like closing thoughts before we wrap up and get out of here?
Wow. I'm just playing with that nerd idea.
It's going to be an herb nerd.
As a compliment. Yeah, I've been a part of like clubs that are like the plant dorks.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you say that in your bio. That's right.
Yeah. I'm just gonna share something that came from like a group of students that we dubbed ourselves the plant dorks. Yeah. We do monthly check-ins for one of my monthly classes, and the monthly check-in is what plant thing did you do in this past month? And this guy just nailed it. And he said, I'm doing plant shit even when I'm not doing plant shit. And it was like, yes.
Hell yeah.
All the time. So that's was
awesome.
The slogan for like the plant dorks is doing plant shit even when we're not doing plant shit.
I want that sticker. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Go do plant shit. I love it. Well, it's been a blast, Rachel. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in once again. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Herbalist Hour. And we'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Mason.
Thanks so much for watching today's episode of the Herbalist Hour. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want more great herbal content, be sure to subscribe to our HerbRally YouTube channel. If you enjoy these Herbalist Hour episodes and you'd like to join us live, you can do so by becoming an HerbRally Schoolhouse member. Learn more at herbally.com/schoolhouse. And if you want to get your first 30 days for free, use coupon code YouTube30 at checkout. So our HerbRally Schoolhouse members get access to exclusive video classes, monographs, and a lot more herbal community discounts, along with joining these live Herbalist Hour interviews. So one more time, herbally.com/schoolhouse. Enter coupon code YouTube30 at checkout to get your first 30 days for free. All right, we'll see you in the next episode, and take care.